I still believe him. Oh, Big Cat's here.
Where am I sitting?
On today's episode of the Mark Titus Show, a historic weekend in college basketball featuring 4 top 10 tilts for the first time ever has led me to this conclusion. Despite all the belly aching about how college basketball parity is at an all-time high and every team can beat every team and we've never seen anything like this. I think at one point I made the argument that we need to expand the top 25 because losing to unranked teams that are just on the outside of the top 25 looks bad, but really a lot of these teams are as good as each other, yada, yada, yada. As it turns out, UConn and Purdue are distancing themselves from the pack, and I think they're just better than everybody. The tournament has a crazy way of shaking things up and making us regret saying things like this the first week of February. But as it stands right now, UConn and Purdue fans seem to be the only two fan bases that are just like puffing their chests out and are like, we are winning the national championship because both teams look so damn good. They're both not going to win it. I'm here to say that they both will not win the national championship, but they look damn good and are distancing themselves from the pack. I wouldn't say the top 10 games really lived up to the hype across the board. There was some good basketball, a lot of takeaways from them, and we'll talk about as much as we can. But really, ultimately, the Purdue-Wisconsin game was probably the best game. A lot of the other ones, Carolina, in my estimation, proved to be the better team from start to finish against Duke, kept Duke at an arm's length the entire way. Tennessee did the same in Rupp Arena against Kentucky. Kansas almost blew out Houston in Allen Fieldhouse, where it felt like Kansas kind of got bored there in the second half and couldn't believe how much time was left on the clock every time they look up. So not exactly the fireworks we were hoping for, but a lot of conclusions that we can jump to, a lot of overreactions. I mentioned UConn earlier. They played at St. John's in Madison Square Garden and looked a little shaky before just going absolutely bananas down the stretch and Cam Spencer going off. We're going to talk about all of those games and just some of the stuff that were my takeaways and things I'm excited about, some things I'm concerned about with some of the losers, all that sort of stuff. Also joining us is Big Cat today. Wisconsin was ranked 6th in the country, and then they immediately lost 2 in a row. So we are in Las Vegas for the Super Bowl this week. As a company, all the Barstool, we sent out we have all the shows basically out here, and we're on the Strip. I'm looking out at a 2 Chainz, Saweetie. Looks like they're doing a concert tonight, by the way. We should, or maybe that's on Friday. I might have to extend my stay. But we're sitting here on the Vegas Strip, and Big Cat and I have been talking about this Badgers team, and I was like, hey man, why don't you just come on the show and we could talk about it there. So we're gonna get a sense of, is he hitting the panic button on Wisconsin, having lost 2 straight, just lost at home to Purdue? The dreams of winning a Big Ten championship probably dissipated against the Boilers on Sunday. But at the same time, this is still a really good Wisconsin team, and I think it's at this point in the season, Wisconsin is still better than I certainly expected them to be entering the season. So why not bring on the most famous Wisconsin basketball fan now that Andy North is getting a little older? I think Big Cat has taken a spot. So why not bring on Dan? We'll talk to him about Wisconsin, some other stuff. He's got a lot of fun things about college basketball. He's great. I love having him on the show because he really does love college basketball as much as I do. So Big Cat coming up. Going to talk about these top 10 games. Let's get to it. All right, I'm going to start in Chapel Hill with Carolina Duke, a Carolina Duke game that was, as I said, we had 4 top 10 tilts. I don't know why I love saying that so much. We had 4 of them this weekend. That's a record. We've never had that many top 10 games, 2 top 10 teams playing each other in one weekend. And Carolina Duke both being ranked in the top 10, you would think that this was the game that everyone was locked in on. And we talked about it before the game that the rivalry's lost a little bit of juice. Obviously, Kay and Roy aren't there anymore. But, this is the kind of game that I think gets Carolina Duke the reputation as being the best rivalry in college basketball, beyond the fact that they are good teams. Even in a year where people are kind of down on the rivalry, or not this year, but we're at a time period where it's just kind of a scratching to the head. We're wandering in the wilderness, kind of trying to find reasons to care about Carolina Duke again. You still have 2 guys in R.J. Davis and Kyle Filipowski who could be first-team All-Americans. You still have the 2 top 10 teams, but you still have guys who are going to be first-round picks, guys who could be lottery picks, multiples of those. and just across the board, it's a game that still pops. And what separates Duke Carolina for me from all the other rivalries is that on top of the hatred for each other, on top of all the talent, all the history, all of that stuff, Duke Carolina, I hate saying this because that's what everyone says, and it's not always true, but they say it always delivers. That's become like the tagline. North Carolina versus Duke always delivers. It kind of does, though. It's always so fun to watch. Now, this game was not particularly close for most of it. Carolina was better and proved to be better for most of the game, and felt like they were up 10 every time you look up. I didn't really learn anything about either team that I didn't already feel. I really, really like this Carolina team. I think if they can play defense like they have been as of late, they are very much national title good. I know they lost on the road to Georgia Tech, but that happens in college basketball. It was a 1-point loss where in the end RJ Davis may have gotten fouled, and I'm not here to pull out screenshots and point and circle shit on a screenshot and be like, he got bumped here, that should have been free throws, whatever else. I'm just providing a little context that, like, there's a different timeline where they call a foul in RJ Davis's favor towards the end of that Georgia Tech game. He makes both free throws, and we don't even talk, and we just say, damn, North Carolina escaped. They didn't. I get it. It counts, but this Carolina team is definitely national title good, and I'm going to talk about them a little bit. Duke, I've said it all year. I'm a broken record. The talent is through the roof. I like Shire as a coach, but they just feel a little soft. It just feels like there's no imposing of their will. There's no identity as a team, as a program. There's no culture. When I watch Duke play basketball, I just see like, and I don't want this to be a huge indictment on Shire. It's eventually going to be. When enough time passes and nothing has changed, this is going to be Shire's fault. But as it stands right now, I feel like the program is there's just kind of not like an identity, and it just feels like a bunch of talented players playing basketball. Now, the good part is that they are very, very talented. Jared McCain had a great game. Jeremy Roach is kind of somehow like the guy who's been at Duke the longest, but is somehow still the unheralded, forgotten about guy. Duke fans are like, what the hell are you talking about? No, he's not. I'm telling you, nationally, I do still sort of feel like Jeremy Roach is somehow forgotten about, because it's Kyle Filipowski's team, and then it's this freshman class, and you kind of just wait to see which freshman's going to step up. Is Caleb Foster going to have a big game? Nope, he's not. He's gonna shoot 4 times. He's going to score 4 points and foul out like he did against Carolina. All right, it's not Caleb Foster. It looks like it's going to be Jared McCain tonight. Sometimes it's Tyrese Proctor. I don't know. There's so much talent on this floor, on this team, that you sometimes forget about Jeremy Roach, but he's a very good player as well. But I don't. Soft feels like it might be too strong of a word. Like, it feels I don't really hate this Duke team, but there's just kind of not an identity. And when I watch them play, I don't really feel like I don't really know what they're trying to do out there. I don't know what the mindset of Duke is going into any basketball game. And you want to hope that a rivalry game, when you're playing your arch nemesis on the road, and this is an opportunity to kind of put a statement on the season and get some momentum building in February, you kind of would hope that identity would show itself in a game like this. It kind of didn't. They were just along for the ride. They were fine with Carolina dictating all the terms. Carolina's getting up and down, getting easy buckets. Duke was doing it with them. I mean, Duke has talent to get up and down with Carolina as well, but Carolina was playing the game on their terms, and that's super encouraging if you're a Carolina fan, because beyond Carolina just imposing their will on Duke, and anytime you beat your rival and it's a ho-hum type situation. I know the final minute and a half was very nervy for the Tar Heels, but it was never really particularly close to me. Beyond anytime you can do that, that's awesome. But the big takeaway is something we kind of already knew, but it was really, really on display in this Carolina Duke game, which is that Harrison Ingram is that dude. And for Carolina to win a national championship, the formula has always been point guards and big guys who can run the floor and crash the glass and all that sort of shit. That is Carolina basketball. Whether you like North Carolina or don't like North Carolina, I will say through the years, multiple coaches really, forever, for the longest time, North Carolina basketball is a very defined style of basketball. That you see the jersey, you see the Argyle print, you see the baby blues. you kind of know what you're getting out of North Carolina and how they approach the game. It is a style that has transcended coaches and different eras of college basketball. They get up and down, very, very reliant on great point guard play. If Carolina does not have a good point guard, forget about it. They're going to suck. If they don't have, just dominant guard play in general, they're going to suck. They need bigs that can run the floor, that can crash the glass, like I said. But what really separates the good Carolina teams from the great ones, the ones that are competing for national titles, the ones that we all remember, is the guy on the wing who's kind of an X factor, who's a defensive-minded guy, who's basically what Harrison Ingram is for this team, the leaky black type role. Justin Jackson was kind of this in 2016 with the Marcus Page, Bryce Johnson team that almost won the national championship against Villanova. And then he came back the next year and was like their best player with Joel Berry and, that group. But that's the role, the Theo Pinson role, the Danny Green type role. And now all those guys are different players, and they all weren't like cut from the same cloth, but they all were serving the same purpose, which is like just being that pro-style wing that's just willing to play great defense, but also can score when they need to. And that's what Harrison Ingram is for Carolina. And they're in a great spot as a team because R.J. Davis is clearly the best player. Didn't play particularly awesome in this game. He was like 3 for 14. Let me pull that up. He was like 3 for. Oh, what was R.J. Davis in this game? I know he had 17 still. He was 3 for 11 from 2. He was 5 for 14 from the field. He didn't play great, but still had a pretty good game. Armando Bacot was very, very good, but the difference to me is Harrison Ingram, and Harrison Ingram's not a guy that they need 100% from every single night to win a national championship, but he raises the ceiling of North Carolina so much, and if he plays like he does against Duke, the sky really. What did George say? The roof is the ceiling. The ceiling is the. Do you remember that, TJ? The Michael Jordan halftime speech when he was like speaking to all the Carolina fans. He said the ceiling is the roof. That's what it was. The ceiling is the roof. I think he was talking about North Carolina football. Funny enough.
What was he meaning to say? The ceiling is the floor.
I think he was trying to say. I think he was talking about the football team, and he was trying to say that like the future is very bright, and there's no telling how high the ceiling of this program could be. And he said. The ceiling is, and then I think he just kind of looked up at the Dean Dome roof and was like, it's the roof, pointing to like a roof that's like really high up. Like, the ceiling is the roof. And then everyone's like, what the fuck does that mean?
Like,
the ceiling is the roof.
The sky is the limit,
the limit, yeah.
The boundary is the boundary.
The boundary is...
The standard is the standard.
The standard is the standard is another great quote that like you kind of hear and you're like, that doesn't make sense, but it kind of does. But what is that Mike Tomlin?
The standard is, I think that, yeah.
Or is that McVay?
Well, but what is the standard?
I think that's Tomlin. Anyway, Harrison Ingram is awesome. Had a great game, but that's as I was watching him, I'm like, that is the role. It's like we spend so much time talking about Carolina about point guards and big men because that's what the program has been defined on. But as it turns out, Carolina has been built on just having really fucking good players at every position. I mean, that's really it. So if you have a guy in Elliot Cadeau is who the freshman point guard who is good, but he's not the best guard. Obviously, you have R.J. Davis, who's not a point guard, but he can push it and he can be a lead guard and he can be that guy when he needs to be, and he kind of knows the point guard responsibilities. Having played the position, he can handle the responsibilities. You have Armando Bacot, who I don't love as like a build your whole team around this guy and dump it into the post to him as much as possible and let's run everything through him. Don't love him as that guy. Do love Armando Bacot as just like a crash the glass. When you have one-on-one in the post, sure, go ahead, make a move. If you got good position, go ahead, make a move, get a bucket. He can do that, and he can do it well. And Armando Bacot has he did that against Duke on Saturday. And he has been good through the years. I mean, there's a reason why he's always up for All-Americans and he's All-ACC and winning all these awards and probably going to end up setting some records because he's been here for 5 fucking years. He's been absolutely awesome. So I was really fired up watching Carolina. I do think Carolina can win a national championship, and the Georgia Tech game turned me off from them, but I still believe him. Big Cat's here.
Where am I sitting?
Just sit right there. I'm talking to myself, dude. This is how this show operates. I'm on my Rosillo shit, dude. Just monologuing. Is that not good water? Frozen?
No, it's frozen. Wait,
All
right, so if we did a quick Rosillo, it's like, all right. Like, North Carolina's playing really good, but do you really trust their guys at the end of the season? Baycott, he's been there, but he's also old.
Yeah.
And then UConn, they look good, but I also don't know. They don't have as many scoring options as last year. We just give all the opinions.
Yeah, and you.
I love Ryan.
Yeah, you also when you're talking about college basketball, you have to give yourself a lot of outs. So you just say I love this team, but you just never know.
No, I don't like giving us outs. Last time I was on this show, we said that Michigan State was going to be.
You
the team.
said Michigan State. I said Tennessee. Who?
24 hours later, they lost to JMU at home.
Did we even put the show out yet, TJ?
That was tough.
We recorded the show, and before we even put it out, they had lost to JMU at home, and then we put it out the next morning, and you were like, I think North Carolina, or I think Michigan State's gonna win the national championship.
They could still do the Izzo thing where they've been playing a little better. They got some guys back.
They're not as bad as everyone thinks they are,
and they're gonna sneak on teams because They're like starting to round into form. Although I still don't trust. Like I feel like they don't know when they need to score a bucket. Like it kind of goes away for a while.
Yeah, they lost at Nebraska and then lost.
Everyone does.
And lost to Northwestern. But that's what I'm saying. When they lost to Nebraska, you're like, oh, this team really fucking sucks.
Yeah.
But then everybody's losing to Nebraska.
Everyone loses to Nebraska.
You realize it's not as bad as we thought.
Yes.
I wanted you on because I wanted to talk about Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I need some clarity on how to feel about Wisconsin because you've lost 3 of 6 now, 2 in a row.
Well, I think 3 of 6 is a bullshit way to do it.
I mean, it's true.
Yeah, but how far back are we going to go? I mean, they've lost 2 in a row. Okay,
it's 3 of 6.
We don't have to add the third. Listen, the Penn State doesn't play like organized basketball.
They don't. They do not.
That's not fair. You could lose to Penn State because they're impossible to guard. If they get hot, if their guards get hot, they don't really have plays, and they can sneak up on you.
Yeah.
Okay, so that one, okay. Nebraska, everyone loses at Nebraska. I was going into that game, I was like, I think we're going to lose. It hurt the way it happened because we were up 17 or whatever it was, and I was like, oh, shit. And then it all fell apart. And then Purdue's really good. I'll admit, Purdue's really good. So right now, I would say I'm at a must-win on Michigan on Wednesday because Michigan stinks. But I'm not ashamed. Like, losing at Nebraska, I'm not ashamed of. Nebraska's good at home. Also, Nebraska fans, I just want to say this real quick. Nebraska fans have been giving me a lot of guff. Nebraska came to the Kohl Center. We whooped them. So, like, that should still count.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like they're 1-0 against us this year. It's 1-1.
They're trying to do the thing where it doesn't count when they lose, but when they win,
right?
They laugh in your face.
They only count their home games.
Yeah,
which,
they only count.
They're the best team in the country.
They might be the best team in the country at home.
Yeah.
They beat everybody at home.
Yeah.
You guys got Michigan, then Rutgers.
Yeah. Rutgers stinks.
And then, do you play Ohio State again?
I don't know if we play Ohio State. I think
we
have Illinois
again?
at home. Here's what I'm dealing with this Badger team, and I'd love for you to give some wisdom to me. So, very fun Badger team. It's kind of the perfect team that, like, when Wisconsin can be at their peak, it's got the right mix of older guys, Crowell and Wall and, like, Chucky, and then they got a couple shooters. Klesmit can get hot. Esigian can get hot. AJ Storr has been awesome. He's like the X factor. AJ Storr, Blackwell's been awesome too. So AJ Storr, I love watching AJ Storr play basketball.
Mm-hmm.
This happens though in college basketball all the time, where I want to win games. I want AJ Storr to be awesome, but I also he wasn't great in the Purdue game. His shot selection wasn't great. He wasn't hitting everything, and part of me is like, well, maybe he'll stay an extra year because he didn't play well against Purdue. And that's what you struggle with as college basketball fan. We're like, the silver lining is we can look at this tape and be like, hey, you probably got to come back another year.
You got stuff to work on.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's where I'm at. It's a fucked up thing you think of where you're rooting for these guys. You want these guys to succeed, but you're also like, maybe don't succeed so much that you're a slam dunk. Like,
let's slow down and not be too good. Yeah, yeah. He's been good. He's been so good.
He's been really good.
Chucky was bad against Purdue too.
Yeah,
I don't know what happened because you guys were like right there and you just couldn't. Like Purdue,
We couldn't make shots.
Purdue is so fucking good.
They're very good.
They are. Everyone that just only pays attention to the NCAA tournament thinks Purdue is a joke, but like they are good. And even if you do pay a little bit of attention, maybe you just think it's Edey and a bunch of bums around him. Lance Jones is awesome.
Lance Jones is awesome. Their kid who's been there forever, the power forward.
Kaufman Wren?
No.
Or first. Or Gillis. You're thinking Gillis. Yeah, you're thinking
Gillis is a perfect guy every team needs.
Yeah.
He's kind of like the who was the guy who was at Butler opposite of Gordon Hayward?
Matt Howard?
Yeah. Where it's like you need a guy who can get dirty, who can kind of be a tough guy. And you know, get those like extra rebounds. But yeah, Purdue's good, so I'm not ashamed of that. But Wisconsin, it happened in both the games. Well, Nebraska game was more turnovers. The Purdue game, we just didn't hit a 3 in the second half. Yeah, and it's like you need. I think all Wisconsin games are kind of similar in the fact that you can kind of expect what you can get from Wall and Crowell and AJ Storr and Chucky, and it's like, can Klesmit get hot for a little bit to carry you? Can Esigian come in and hit a couple threes? Like, that's the missing piece. Yeah. Where we kind of fall off offensively, it's like you need someone to just make a big shot.
A little bit of a loser attitude towards the end of the game, if I can say so. Just begging for the refs to bail you out.
So I was watching the game on the plane on my phone, and I agree with you. I don't.
There were some bad calls, but like
college basketball refs suck.
There were some bad calls, but it got to a point where, like the Wisconsin, like you guys weren't going to win the game. It was like you just weren't going to win the game, and you were hoping for a miracle, and then every single whistle blown, the Wisconsin fans were just going crazy because they were like, we would have won the fucking game if
I
you didn't
was not one of them. I will say that Max Klesmit is definitely like the heir apparent to the Wisconsin player that everyone hates in the Big Ten. He's got a little bit to him that, like, I think people don't like him. Yeah. Because he can get really hot, and he also has, you know, he drew that technical against Indiana, that game I went to in Madison that people were very upset about.
And CJ Gunn retaliated. Yeah.
So here's the other thing is the Badgers. 6 is too high. I never want us to be ranked 6. I always what's the new rankings?
Where I actually don't. I didn't see where.
I'd love to see a 9, 10, 11 next to us.
That makes sense. I feel like 9 feels like where you should be.
Right.
Let me see where. AP poll.
It's very stupid.
11.
11.
Yeah,
All right, perfect.
Yeah.
Back where we should be.
Yeah, that makes sense.
11 is where Wisconsin should be. I would like, if you ask me right now, dream seed, and this is going to sound stupid because people are like, why wouldn't you want a higher seed? I would love for the Badgers to get a 3 seed.
That's a good spot. Yeah.
2 seed has pressure to it. 2 seed, you say they should be in the Sweet 16. 3 seed, you know you're going to have to play like a 7 or a 10, so it's a little bit different. I'm excited about this team. I've told myself that I'm going to let myself get emotionally vulnerable. Which is and they immediately lost 2 games in a row after I made that declaration.
But the schedule opens up a little bit. I am looking at it now. You have Michigan away, Rutgers away. You should win both of those. Ohio State at home. We fucking suck.
Yep.
You'll smoke us. And we can't win a game on the road, so that won't even be close. Iowa away.
Tough game.
Yeah, is that a...
No, it's a tough game. Because Iowa's always, even though Iowa's down this year, they can still have a game where they're just like, we're going to hit 45% from 3.
Is that a rivalry?
It is in football.
I know it is. But you guys...
It's not as much in basketball because in football, Wisconsin and Iowa are like long-lost brothers. They're like Kane and Undertaker. That they play the game very similar ways, and when one is up, another like Iowa's been a little bit better the last few years, and I find myself being like, as bad as it is to watch Iowa football, I'm like, man, I wish I had that right now, which is a pathetic thing to say. Like, I might be the only person in the world who's like, I really wish we had Iowa football right now. So we're very similar in football. Basketball is where we diverge because friends like just chuck it up and don't play defense.
Right.
So, but it's a little bit of a rivalry.
Maryland, Indiana, and then Illinois at home, which would be a good one.
Is Maryland and Indiana
Maryland's at home, Indiana's away. So like the point of reading all this is that you could rip off like 6 or 7 in a row here and get it all back.
I think I looked at it. I think we have like 9 games left, and I think that as long as we can finish like 7-2, 6-3. Say the Purdue and Illinois games you might lose, we should be in that 3-4 spot.
Yeah. I saw you tweeting about Edie a little bit. Are you? I've gotten in trouble as of late because I don't hate Edie. I don't I think he's very good. I'm not one of those guys that's like he's only good because he's big. I think he is very, very good, and I obviously will vote for him for National Player of the Year.
You have a vote?
Yeah, I have a Wooden Award vote. Yeah.
What?
I only use it every so often.
Damn.
But
Okay.
I had it, and then I didn't vote for a while, and I remember saying on a show one time, I was like, I used to have one, and then the guy who runs it was like, you still have it. So I was like, really?
That's
I was
amazing.
like, I didn't realize
Okay,
that.
that's great.
I might not vote this year, actually. I don't know. I'm trying to think of the last time I voted. I think I voted for Obi Toppin over Luka Garza. Might have been
Ain't
the
no
last time I
stopping.
voted. Yeah. But I've gotten in trouble with Purdue fans because I said nothing against Purdue, nothing against ED, but I'm just kind of over the experience. Like as a view, just as a like it's like a movie I've seen before. I'll tune back in March, but like the Zach Edey regular season experience, I don't love watching, and it's nothing against Edey. It's more that like I actually do love Purdue's guards, and I love watching the rest of Purdue's team play. Braden Smith has been so fucking awesome this year, and Fletcher Loyer when he gets out, he's Lance Jones is incredible on down the line. But the Edey experience I'm just kind of fed up with. But it's hard to say that and not sound like a bitter sour grapes hater. Yeah. But I feel like you might be feeling the same thing.
No. So what you said, I'm like one step further. You're like getting you have all the right thinking. You just haven't gotten to the final stop, which I have arrived at. I hate Zach Edey. I'm sick of it. But that's what makes college basketball great because you don't usually have guys stay around as long.
Yeah.
So, like, it's like a love-hate relationship where I really don't like watching him play and I really hate playing against him. But I also can acknowledge that the feelings I have towards him are feelings that are old-school college basketball that we don't get very often anymore.
It doesn't make sense that he came back because that,
Right.
like the way it works is you ascend to the height that he got to, and then you're gone.
But you lose to a 16.
Yeah, but then you lose
so
to
you have to.
16,
But
then
you know
he
what I'm
comes
saying?
back.
Like
Yeah.
he is
right.
Like when you watch like the I Hate Leitner documentary, like that's what college basketball used to be, where it's like these guys would bother you for 4 years in a row, and you hated them, and you built up this rivalry and hatred. We've lost that in today's college basketball because of transfers and one and done, all that stuff. So as much as I hate watching Zach Edey, I'm also taking like a big picture approach of like you won't get many more Zach Edeys in your college basketball life.
Yeah. I think I've just gotten to a point where like I don't know if it's great for the sport that the guy who's like dominating everybody 2 years in a row, and again, this is not his fault, this isn't Purdue's fault. I'm not saying they should apologize for it, but the reality is like
no, they should apologize.
Yeah,
it's
actually
bullshit.
I am saying that.
It's bullshit.
Every Purdue game, it just the screenshots go crazy.
Yeah.
And it's a screenshot of like, look where the defender's arm is, and then the Purdue fans say that that's obviously a foul, but then the fans of the other team are like, no, because if you look at Zach Edey's left leg, he's pushing the other guy right here. And whether one side's right, the other side, whatever, just the experience I'm over, and I've just kind of like gotten to a point where I'm like, this is annoying as fuck, and I hate that that's like, if you're trying to sell somebody on college basketball, you're like, the best player is Zach Edey. And they're like, tell me about Zach Edey. And I'm like, well, every time he plays a game of basketball, he's going to shoot 14 free throws.
Yep.
And then after the game, everybody's going to just argue on Twitter about screenshots. And that's pretty much the Zach Edey experience. And I find that tiresome. Can
I give you a Zach Edey take that's just so stupid, but I find myself thinking about it all the time? Permission?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Because it's really dumb, and it will probably hurt this show because people will be like, you're really stupid. If they didn't call ticky-tack fouls, I think I could slow down Zach Edey. I do. I feel like if you just bully him a little bit. He's so much taller than me. He's obviously – I'm not good at basketball, but I feel like sometimes I watch him like just someone have a little bit of fucking shit to him and throw an elbow into his back and move him off his spot and like don't let him get in the paint and just be like a wall on him. I might be the man for that job.
You're going with the old John Chaney goon approach. Where he used to just be like, I'm throwing goons out there to fucking.
Why not? Like he's so tall. Like you can't beat his height.
Yeah.
So you basically just have to get like maybe if I could go back in time, I'd have Wisconsin like Figure out like a 300-pounder that you can just bring in, be the Zach Edey stopper, have him stand at the foul line, and just don't let Zach Edey get further down than the foul line. That's it.
That's all.
And just be like, here's all the fucking fat and muscle, and we're gonna throw it at him. A dumb take, I agree, but I've had that thought. Like, just fucking give him a little of that.
Yeah. I mean, like that kind of does just sound like when Steph was on the rise in the NBA, and everyone's like, "Why don't you just crawl up into him and not let him get a shot off?"
Yeah, it's like one of my worst takes ever. Like one of my first truly bad takes was in the '90s when I was like, "Shaq's not good; he's just tall."
He's just tall. Yeah.
He's just bigger than everyone.
If I was that big, I would be that good.
Yeah. Yeah, real bad.
Do you remember that with Steph with like 2014, 15, and Steph is starting to really emerge? He's always been good in the NBA, but he's starting to become the Steph Curry we all know now. And there were takes that were like, just don't help off of him.
Yeah,
just like stop playing help defense,
but,
or just like when he's going around screens, just chase him off the screen and then crawl up into him, make him put it on the floor.
Yeah, Barkley was he was like no shooting team, no jump shooting team could ever win a title. Like okay.
It's that easy. Just put a hand up when he goes up to shoot. Last time you were on here, you said Michigan State was going to win the national title. I said Tennessee. Tennessee looks pretty good.
Tennessee looks good, but
like
Rick
Tennessee.
Barnes.
I know, but that's why I wanted to bring it up. You still think the power of Rick Barnes is going to hold them back?
I placed 2 futures on college basketball teams. One was in December. Was UConn 14-1, and I do think UConn is. I mean, it's kind of a cop-out answer, but like until someone shows they can beat them, they're just so well coached, and you had the tweet like they've lost, they lost NBA players, and they
lost their 3 best players from
right.
the national champion, and they're still
so good.
Yeah,
and the other one was UNC at 30-1, which is good value. But yeah, Tennessee scares me. I'm trying to think who else like really scares me right now. I have one team that scares me that I don't want to say out loud.
Is it
Alabama? Scares me a little. Yeah, I know that they don't make threes like they do when they're away, but this game they have against Auburn, which I think is tomorrow night.
Yeah, it is coming up.
That's going to be a good litmus test. Is it at Auburn?
It'll be at Auburn.
Yeah, so like if they win that game, I think you have to start saying like, "What's up with Alabama?"
Yeah, it's Wednesday. Wednesday.
I hate to say that out loud, but I think that's the truth. Kentucky's not serious. I had a moment where I was like, "Ooh, Kentucky, they play no defense." Mm-hmm. That was pathetic. What the defensive output against Tennessee on Saturday, and then Arizona's like one of the weirdest teams out there in the fact that they look so good, and then they've lost these games.
Yeah.
Like, what is going on here?
They just Arizona plays like an NBA team, good and bad. Like they just get up and down. They if they're open, they shoot it. They're so fucking good, but like they don't really seem to care that much when things are going poorly.
Right.
They're down 17. They don't really seem to have that attitude of like, why is this fucking happening? Let's lock in. My list is my national championship list.
And Houston, I forgot Houston. Houston is, Houston is for real. Although Houston is one of those teams that they just will always be the same team, and I'll always ask the question of like when the game grinds, who's going to be getting all their buckets?
Who's going to score for them?
Right.
And it's L.J. Cryer probably. He was going off against Kansas, but the thing that worries me about Houston is the advanced metrics absolutely love them. Every single algorithm that exists in college basketball has Houston at number 1, even after they just lost to Kansas. But I think so much of that is because when Houston plays a team that is worse than them, they can absolutely fucking crush them.
Correct.
And they're kind of like they're really good at like picking on the littler kid in school.
Yep.
But then when a bully of their size comes along, that's when I worry about Houston.
Yeah.
So like I do think if you catch Houston on a night when they're playing, I don't know, like a TCU or TCU's not even a bad team, but like they actually lost to TCU, so not a great example.
Not a great example.
You pick Houston versus
Kansas State.
Kansas State's a good one. They killed Kansas State.
Right.
They play a team like that, they can fucking crush them. But then against Kansas, they just looked outmatched the entire time. And I know it was in Allen Fieldhouse, but I don't know. There's something about Houston that I really like Houston, and I understand the culture, and there's something admirable about them. But then I also can't get myself to really fully believe in a team where like every guy is 3 inches shorter than the guy he's guarding.
Right.
And
Right.
It's
like, yeah, they're going to rebound, but you have to make shots.
Yeah, and they can't really score that much, but they do play unbelievable fucking defense. My list is UConn and Purdue, obviously.
I don't know if Purdue's obvious.
You don't think Purdue's obvious?
No.
What are we?
I think the games get
Purdue?
ref differently in the tournament.
Yeah,
and I think it's a little bit harder for Zach Edey, and they're better. They're way better than they were last year. Like their guards all grew up.
Yes.
I
think
I'm
Lance
not
Jones
saying
is,
I'm not going to fall into the like, oh, they're the same as last year. I just don't know. If you're talking about getting to a Final Four, because that's really what the list is. Because anyone can win. Like once you get to a Final Four, it's like the ball can bounce against you, and you can be like, well, we were the best team, but we lost. Getting to a Final Four, I just don't know. And that those doubts have to start creeping in. It's not like Virginia, where Virginia lost to a 16 and then won the national title. Purdue has done this for like 5 straight years.
That is true. They have
where
done
they've
it
just
for a while,
tightened up in the tournament.
Yeah. The one thing that gives me hope, if I'm a Purdue fan, is Lance Jones is an absolute killer.
Yeah.
That guy is unbelievable. And he did it against Wisconsin, but he's done it like a lot of games where you guys on Sunday were not necessarily almost I think you cut it to 4 and when he hit a 3.
Yeah.
He's so good at like
the daggers.
You go on like an 8-0 run,
yeah.
The crowd's standing up.
It's
Everyone's
a good point.
getting excited.
Yep.
And Lance Jones, he did that against Rutgers too, didn't he, TJ? Like there was a moment against Rutgers. There was a moment against Northwestern when he did it. He's so good at
and you need those
moments.
guys. Those
Yeah.
are the guys you absolutely have to win tournament games, because it really does distill down to the simple fact of like you're going to be in a spot where you need a guy to make a big shot, and if you have it or you don't.
The other thing he did was the play where I forget the time and score, but it was towards the end, and Wisconsin's starting to get a little panicky and pressing and trying to create something. And Lance Jones is getting like double teamed, and he's just like dribbling between his legs.
Yeah.
And then he splits a double team, and I'm watching that like, dude, last year, if this was Purdue, they are throwing that ball into the 4th row. They are shitting down their leg. They're looking at the bench like, please save us, Coach Painter. And to have a guy like that, I don't know. I don't know if one guy makes that much of a difference, but
here's the other thing.
I agree with you on the Edey part. The officiating part, I agree with. I do think they have a plan B in a way they haven't before.
And now that I'm thinking it through, because you've been podcasting a long time. I've come on your show a bunch to talk college basketball, and the theme usually is like, when is the Big Ten going to win another national title? Mm-hmm. Having it be Purdue would be just a fucking knife through both of our hearts.
Yeah,
because we wouldn't be able to celebrate that.
No, but that's how I felt.
That might be how it happens.
But that's how I felt with the way Purdue plays basketball is akin to the way Michigan plays football.
Yeah.
By the way.
Yeah.
That
you're
it
right.
is like unapologetically Big Ten football. Unapologetically, this is Big Ten basketball.
No, you're right.
This is how the breakthrough happens.
You're right.
Is
you distill the most, like the purest amount of Big Ten can beat anyone else.
Yeah.
All right. So who else is on your list? UConn, Purdue.
UConn and Purdue. I have North Carolina, who I very much like, even though they just lost to Georgia Tech.
Yeah, but they beat Duke.
They just beat Duke.
Yeah.
I think RJ Davis is a stud.
I don't know if you take the same approach to college basketball as I do. Every single team that could go to the Final Four, if you're like, but what about this game? Just tell me, was it a road conference game? Every single good team loses at least 1 to 2 to 3 road conference games. That just has to happen. That's how it works.
And if you don't lose, you at least have a scare, which is what, like, they lost to Georgia Tech, and I just said that a little earlier, that like you lose to Georgia Tech, but they lost by 1, and there was like a controversial play at the end, and there's, I don't know, like, if you only look at the result, yes, they lost, but also that probably should have been a game where it was like a near miss.
Right.
And
UConn
they
lost.
actually made their 2 free. They got smoked
last
at
year.
Seton
They
Hall.
had like 4 losses in a row.
But UConn, even this year, they lost by 15, I think, at Seton Hall.
Right.
They got
it
fucking
happens.
stomped.
It happens.
I still really love North Carolina. I do love Tennessee. I think last year, Zakai Ziegler didn't play last year in the Sweet 16. He didn't play all NCAA tournament, but he had 26 against Kentucky. He adds an offensive element to them that makes them better. And Dalton Knecht is the best scorer in the country. And I think like you can laugh at Tennessee's offense all you want, but when you have the best pure scorer in all of college basketball.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Your offense isn't doomed.
You're right.
There's no world where Tennessee's like ever going to be, because that's always the concern. Is when the wheels fall off in the tournament, it's because they can't score. If you have that guy on the floor, you have a chance of still getting buckets.
Right.
So
Agreed.
I love Tennessee. Kansas, I hated up until Johnny Furphy, this Australian freshman kid, has been playing out of his mind lately. I'm slowly talking myself back into Kansas as actually being national title good.
I mean, they also have like it's funny because Bill Self for the longest time was like, oh, like, all these Elite Eight losses. He wins his second, and you're like, Bill Self, like, what, like, best coach out there right
Bill
now?
Self, he was famous for coming up short, even though he'd already won a title. It's still like, he's going to lose in the Elite Eight again, and then now. Any team you give him, you think he has a shot.
You're like, Bill Self, he'll do it.
That's what he does. Yeah. Especially all these other coaches have retired. He's the one guy we can trust.
Yeah.
And then now that I'm looking at it, it's like Houston, I think, is good enough to beat anybody. I don't trust that Houston can win a national championship. Arizona, I don't think can win 6 straight games. Marquette's the one that I haven't fully given up on yet.
I give up on them.
Yeah, you guys always beat Marquette though.
Always.
You're biased.
Yeah.
You always see them at their worst. I think I've given up on Duke. I think
Duke's done. Duke's done. Soft.
Yeah, they're very soft.
Also,
they're
those
so soft.
TikToks are tough.
Oh my god,
they're
dude.
tough. They're tough.
He makes a lot of those, TJ.
Yeah, it makes a lot of those.
Yeah, he kind of came up in popularity in high school doing like the dances and stuff, and got like super famous through it. But he's pivoted to singing for some reason.
Listen, I'm not going to tell someone what they can and can't do on TikTok. I'm just going to say that Coach K would not have allowed that to happen.
Jerry McCain, he's not a Coach K recruit.
No. I couldn't believe I right before we recorded, I said, "Did you see the Jared McCain TikToks from the?"
I thought it was like a viral trend, but he's just singing.
He made the trend.
Oh,
it's like
he's all right. Then
he's
I
singing
guess
like
he gets
a
little
British
credit
girl
for that.
song.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
people edit his highlights.
The latest singing one.
I'm 2 days into college.
Yeah,
I'm
that
3
one.
lectures behind. Yeah, he made that.
I had friends send me that when they're like, "What the fuck is this kid?"
That's his trend.
And then I brought that up to TJ, and I said, "Did you see the Jared McCain TikTok?" And he's like, "Which one?" He puts out a lot of them, and then different times.
He's nuts.
Different times.
He's sick at basketball.
He's good. He is good at basketball.
Yeah.
You can't dispute that. They're soft though. Duke is soft.
No, they're soft.
Wisconsin, you guys aren't winning a national championship.
No, but if they could get to
a Final Four.
Elite Eight or Final Four, I'd be very happy.
Yeah, you could get to a Final Four.
Elite Eight, I just want to get to the Sweet 16. I just want that second. There's nothing like if your team can get to the Sweet 16 and you get a full 4 or 5 days of getting ready for that next round. It's the best. Surviving the first round.
This feels like it feels like your ceiling might be Elite Eight. It might be like. Yeah,
sign me up.
Which would be awesome.
Loser talk, but sign me up.
Would be awesome.
Yeah.
But I can picture you guys make the Elite Eight, you keep it close against Carolina and lose by 6.
And I would like it too for I think Greg Gard is a good coach, and I think he's a great guy, and he needs a little bit of a run here to get people off his back.
Yeah, that is true.
It kind of negates the whole not making the tournament. He also suffered from the 2020 Wisconsin team was playing awesome basketball right when COVID hit.
Yeah.
So that one was tough.
It is strange how we look back on it and every team was playing awesome.
But they were. Dude, they went into Indiana and they beat Indiana, I think, for a share of the Big Ten. They were playing good basketball. They were playing good basketball.
I didn't say you're wrong. I just said
no, it's true. I think there was
Michigan
an ESPN
State
simulation that had Wisconsin winning it all after.
Michigan State also was going to win it all, and Kansas was going to win it all.
It's fine. Raise the banner.
Dayton was going to win it all.
Raise the banner.
Florida State hung a ACC tournament championship banner because the ACC, they never played a second of basketball, but they were the 1 seed in the ACC tournament, so they got to declare themselves ACC champions. Kentucky, I'm out on. I made the decision. Watching,
they don't play defense.
They don't play defense. I love this Kentucky team. I thought they'd bring. I still think they can beat anybody on any night, but they can't win 6 in a row. I don't even know if they can win 3 in a row in the tournament at this point.
Agreed.
Who else? FAU by default. They're the one that's tricky because they stepped up a conference, FAU, but their conference still sucks.
Right.
They still are irrelevant in terms of the national picture. We're not.
But all their guys are there.
All their guys are there.
Right.
So when the tournament starts, you do have to respect that they did almost do it last year.
Although you
But,
also
like-
have to remember that they were so close in a controversial ending to
Right.
being out in the first round against Memphis.
But every time I put these lists together, I'm like, I mean, I can't sit here and say FAU can't do it because
I'll say they
I
can't.
almost saw it.
I'll say they can't.
Yeah,
I
that's
got you. I'll cover you.
That's true. Just fucking say it.
I had two other things real quick that I wanted to throw out there. Unless you had another team. Do you have any other teams?
I would throw Arizona in the
Yeah,
mix
Arizona's
of
in there.
National title.
I'd
I
agree
think,
with you.
maybe, but go
All
ahead.
right, two last things I had a question for you about. One is Mark Few's window closed.
Yeah,
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's it.
yeah.
We did it.
I don't think Mark Few can win a national championship.
It's over.
I think he's. Yeah, I think. I think he could get close again. I think he can make another Final Four. But he's not recruiting well at all. I don't think he fully understands the transfer portal market.
Yeah.
Like I think the days of Gonzaga, like you can pretend all you want that like Gonzaga was built on these Cinderella type unheralded guys, and they kind of were. But like when Gonzaga was like competing for national championship, they had dudes and they had 5 stars and
Yeah.
they had NBA players.
Chet and Jalen Suggs,
Yeah.
like those weren't
Corey
yeah.
Kispert,
Yeah, those weren't just like nobodies.
and all these they had dudes, and I don't know especially this team is not good, and it's not like they have like no recruits coming down the pipeline.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I don't know.
all right,
I don't
so
know what
it's
they're
over.
gonna do. I don't know what they're gonna do.
All right, and then my last question was, are we ready for Robbie Avila to take over the hearts of a nation?
Sweet 16, TJ.
We
That's what I
need
said.
Indiana State in the tournament.
Indiana State Sweet 16. I don't even know what the bracket looks like, obviously, and I'm putting them in my Sweet 16.
I need them in the tournament so bad. He jumped off the screen to me about 3 weeks ago when I bet an Indiana State game
Yeah.
because it was like just on TV. I was like, this fucking guy rocks.
Missouri Valley Jokic. That's who he is.
Yeah.
He's just Jokic. out
By the
there.
way, I'm not trying to say that I love ball more than anyone in this room, but only one of us went to Southern Illinois versus UIC on Saturday. I did. I took my son. It was awesome. It was. I just went and sat courtside.
Yeah.
Just walked
Not
out.
even as a celebrity.
Just
You're
walked
you're
down
just
and
like
sat
one of the
courtside.
12
I
people
bought
there.
$15 tickets in up, not in the second level, but like not great seats. And I was just like, I told my son, I was like, hey, we're going to walk down and see if we can sit down here. Sat courtside. It was awesome. I love ball. What are you going to say? I love ball.
There
It's
you go.
fun. If you live in a place where they have like not, Power 5 basketball, there's nothing better on a Saturday. Like it's a 1:00 game. Just go watch some ball. It wasn't great. It wasn't the best ball, but it was fun.
The Indiana State Drake game on Saturday looked like it was bumping. dude.
Yeah.
It looked like that place was packed. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That Shirt's the coach at Indiana State's getting some buzz for like DePaul. I think DePaul really wants him, but we'll
Paul's
see
got
what
to
they do.
figure it out.
We'll see what they do.
Paul
But,
needs a new practice facility. I think that's their big thing. I think they share a practice facility with like the students.
That's crazy.
I'm pretty sure. I don't know if it still is that way, but it used to be that it was just like that's where the students can go.
The
work out.
campus is split.
The
campus is
so the campus is in Lincoln Park, but the Wind Trust is south. So it's like probably
you
about
got
5 miles. It is on the red line, so it's not like crazy for kids. Like if DePaul was good, kids would go to the game.
Yeah.
Like it's not a crazy trip.
It's not like UCLA football playing in the Rose Bowl.
Correct.
Or
It's not. You don't need a car.
all
You
their
could
crazy
easily
things like
get
that.
there
Yeah.
if they were good. If they had like all they need is like one sick like NBA player coming up, and they've had NBA. I mean, B-ball Paul, Max Strus.
That's right.
Like,
Quinn
they've had
Richardson
some
back in
fucking
the day.
NBA players recently.
Yeah.
It'd be
Yeah.
awesome if they were good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd
would
be
be.
fun.
All right. Well,
I love
think
college
we,
basketball.
I think we did
This is
it.
the best time, February. Are you going to
Yeah.
bet Kansas or Kansas State tonight? I kind of want to bet
Or
Kansas
it's
State out
in
of the spot.
Manhattan.
Yeah, it's in Manhattan.
Yeah, that feels like a game. Kansas State. What's the spread?
5.5.
Ooh,
What other
That's
big
enticing.
topics did you
that's
cover?
enticing. I'm just ripping through the top 10 games.
Yeah.
Just all the UConn fans are getting mad at me because I'm not talking about UConn enough. I'm talking about Purdue too much, and I'm doing it one because I'm from the state of Indiana, so Purdue, and I'm a Big Ten guy, but also I just find Purdue more fascinating because UConn, we know, like that, UConn won the national title and is the number 1 team in the country, and we're just kind of taking for granted as being really good. Purdue's more interesting to talk about because you can argue over whether they're going to fuck it up.
No,
in the
UConn's just
not.
good.
UConn, you're just like, you're a fucking juggernaut, dude.
Right. No, they
Cam
are.
Spencer is so awesome, TJ.
I actually liked it because the after UConn went and beat St. John's on Saturday, and then Duke lost to UNC, there was a couple UConn fans being like, Cooper Flag, like, you want to reconsider?
Yeah.
And then a lot of UConn fans were like, we're better than that.
Yeah, fuck that.
Like, fuck this guy.
fuck
He's
that
going
kid.
with losers.
Yeah,
We're UConn. And I like that.
Dude, they just every guy that sees the floor for UConn is just so confident and so skilled and so just like they're all killers, and it is Danny Hurley. I mean, they all like embody his. I know Cam Spencer was that way at Rutgers and before he got there, but like
how'd you let him go?
Yeah, I mean,
but he wasn't like this.
no.
Dude.
It's one of those things where we're so bad. Our offensive efficiency is 300th. Our defensive is 3rd.
Remember
It's
when
like
we
if
watched
only
that practice?
Yeah, and
you
there
tried
were
to
0
tell me it
shots
was
made.
defense?
I did tell you we're not a high scoring
We
team.
watched a half-court practice where they just went, like, they were just doing possessions over and over, and I think they did 20 possessions and scored 1 basket. And TJ was like, it's just our defense.
Our defense is so good.
Our defense is so good. It's like if only we had like a knockdown
But you would
3-point shooter.
think
And
when you're
then-
practicing against your own defense,
Yeah.
that when the games come along, it would be easier.
Well, and they also were getting open shots. They were just missing them.
yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, the UConn's really good. Actually, there's a chance Danny Hurley might come into the office next week, and if he does, we got to have him like run a drill on us or something.
That'd be awesome.
It'd be so sick.
That'd
He's
be.
the best.
I said last year, I didn't think Danny Hurley could win a national championship because he's too crazy, and I was worried that like in a tight moment in the NCAA tournament, UConn's up 1 with 40 seconds left, and he would have just frantic energy, and it would transfer to the team, and that would be a bad thing. And this was my whole hypothesis. UConn was never put in that position, and then I feel like this year he's like calmed down. And so, like, I'm never actually going to see that theory put to the test.
Yeah.
He's, like, not actually that crazy this year.
No, I know. 'Cause I think
He's
he
like,
just has
he
it.
did it. He's like, I
did it,
know.
He's got it. He knows how to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You watch him coach now, and he still has the energy, and he still claps it up. But, like, I don't feel like he's like a psychopath anymore. And
Yeah.
it is easier when you just won a national championship and you have the best team again. But, yeah, it's crazy how just in, like, a snap of a finger, he went from, like, a guy that you – I don't know. He's always been a good coach, but like you kind of were just laughing at like how he get tossed from games all the time, and he's
I
a
loved
fucking
it.
maniac.
He's old school. He is our gateway to like the new age.
Yeah,
He's an old school guy in the new age.
I don't know why his brother sucks so bad.
Yeah.
Bobby, like, he can't.
I know.
He can't get over the hump.
That's
at
not
all.
a good team. We
They're
saw
not
them
good
play
at all.
live.
Oh my god, they're so bad, and they've been
Yeah.
bad for a minute. Tell me, I'll make this the last thing. What do I do about my coach? I asked Jake Marsh this because he's a big J, and I wanted his advice on how to cover a coach that you love but also like isn't getting the job done. So I'm gonna just like have you explain to me because you fired Greg Gard how many times?
Yeah, a lot of times.
Yeah.
I have it easy for you. So what you got to do is you have to just be honest. Like this morning, you were honestly telling me that you need to fire your coach and you hate him and kick him to the curb. You just got to say that.
Just say that.
He didn't say
Why
that.
can't I say that?
He didn't say that. But
Yeah.
no, yeah, it's
Why can't I say that? No.
You got to just hope that guys understand that it's a passionate thing to be a fan. And I've said some things that I've regretted and had to walk back. And you just, like Greg Gard is I've run into him twice in the last 6 months. Give me a hug both times. Yeah, he might not read anything or listen to anything. So you may not say that I've had some down times with him. But I like to think in the back of my head, he knows, like, he's got a job to do. I got a job to do.
Yeah.
We both got our jobs to do.
That's true.
That's
true.
You can't apologize for having to do a job.
All right.
We got to fire him. He's got to be fired tomorrow. He's got to be fired.
Ohio State is so bad. I've already said this to you a million times, but we're in the bad. We're in the part where we're so bad. But yet at the same time, people don't fully realize how bad Ohio State basketball actually is, which almost pisses me off more. Where I'd almost rather like bottom out like Louisville. Now I don't want to prolong Louisville bottom out, but
Do you know what it was? It was that run you had in the Big Ten tournament last year.
It was, yeah.
That's what happened with what's his name, Patrick Ewing, when he won the Big East with Georgetown.
That's right.
Like that's the fickle part of college basketball is if you can put a run together for your conference tourney or March Madness, it can basically give you 3 years where you can suck.
That's true, and we did have, but that's what made this year so much more disappointing. Because we showed finally signs of life last year. We brought back a lot of that team. We brought in a great recruiting class. We started out really well. It was the Wisconsin game at home where we fucked it up down the stretch. You guys didn't score for like 10 minutes.
Yeah. Played it on expert mode. We do that sometimes.
And we
like,
still
can
lost,
we win this game on expert?
And you still beat us by double digits. And yeah, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, fire him. Fire his ass.
I just need to get
fire his ass.
All right.
Just fire his ass. Just be like, you know what? Get out. It's time to. You guys are bad. You're bad. I texted you on Saturday. I was watching Viva TV from the Chicago office, which is out Tuesdays and Fridays. Great stuff by all of our guys. But the clip of me and Max just like a Tasmanian devil running into the Mostly Sports studio and screaming at each other in front of you about college basketball. We didn't really add you to the conversation.
No.
And then we just like Tasmanian deviled out screaming at each other, and you just looked in the camera and I was like, you're like, I wish I cared about my team like that right now.
Yeah.
Like I miss having
it's
that
the
kind
apathy. I wish I was in Max's shoes where you're frustrated but you're still good, but you're still like
we're screaming at each other about net rating and quality wins. Like
Villanova stinks, and I would be very frustrated with Neptune if I was Max. But also Villanova has shown the ability to beat good teams, and like you still, the highs are high, but then the lows are low. I just want to feel something, man, and I'm very dead as an Ohio State basketball fan. So
yeah.
All right. Thanks for doing this.
All right.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, boys. See you guys at dinner. Dress nice.
All right, thank you to Dan for joining us. Barged in the middle of the I don't know, I was going to break down all the games. I was going to monologue there for a second. You probably saved me, to be completely honest, because I could have talked about Harrison Ingram for an hour maybe. What else did we talk about? I mean, we kind of hit everything. I wanted to talk about all these games. Tennessee, Kentucky, we touched on it, Dan and I, that he doesn't seem as high on this Tennessee team. Maybe it's just the Dalton Connect fan of me, but I like kind of what I was telling him. Zakai Ziegler, not having him, I should say, last year when Tennessee makes the Sweet 16, gets over the hump, so to speak, because you know they hadn't made a Sweet 16 since 2019, and they've had some good teams in this stretch, and the bracket kind of opens up, and they got FAU in the Sweet 16, and it's looking like it could be Tennessee's year, and FAU just shuts them down, and Tennessee, as Tennessee is wont to do, can't buy a bucket in an NCAA tournament game, and they get bounced. And you just sort of tell yourself that, yeah, Tennessee can win a game or two in the NCAA tournament, but eventually this inept offense is going to catch up to them, and that is going to be their downfall. Still could happen. But Tennessee scoring 103 points in Rupp Arena. Now, I know Kentucky doesn't play defense, but for Tennessee to score 103 points when Dalton Connect wasn't even that good is crazy to me. And to have Zakai Ziegler, who wasn't in the NCAA tournament last year, they didn't have for the end of the season last year, to have Dalton Connect on this team, I really, really like Tennessee, and I fall more in love with Tennessee the more I follow them. And obviously they just lost at home to South Carolina. Head scratchers happen in college basketball. The South Carolina team's not bad, by the way. Ranked 15th, I saw in the new AP poll, so shout out to them. Kansas, Houston, I said my Houston piece already. I think they're good at crushing inferior teams. This is why I had this game circled. It wasn't a deal where I was like, if Houston loses, I'm going to point and laugh and say, haha, I knew you were a fraud. And if they win, then I'll start taking them seriously. But this was a game that I just kind of wanted to see what Houston was about, because I do think that Houston is beating up on lesser teams, and I do worry about when they play truly elite teams, can they stack up? And it was only one game. This doesn't mean that Houston is a fraud, but they look completely outmatched, and Kansas was having their way. And for Houston defense, that is by far the best defense in the country. Not even close. The metrics are they leave no doubt. It's Houston, massive gap, and then everybody else. Kansas had their way, man. And Hunter Dickinson was – I've had my problems with Hunter in the past, but as a basketball player, especially on the offensive end, he is very, very gifted. And, reading the double teams and kicking him out to Furphy. And Furphy coming along changes the composition of this Kansas team, because they having a fifth starter that you can rely on, they don't need him to be a superstar, but if he can play like he's been playing, I mean, Kansas's top five are maybe better than anybody else's, to be honest with you. So I still worry about the bench. We don't know how deep they're going to be. I don't know. We'll see. But I would not be surprised if by the time the NCAA tournament rolls around, for a guy who started the season not believing in Kansas whatsoever, and Kansas was the preseason number 1 team in the country, and I seem to be the loudest voice. I was like, this team is not going to be that good. I wouldn't be surprised if by the time March rolls around, I've completely flipped that. And the emergence of Furphy and the way the rest of, McCuller is obviously awesome, and DeJuan Harris, but Hunter's been playing great too. I think Kansas. I'm starting to see the vision with Kansas a little bit more. And then UConn. I mean, we already said it. Like UConn. Apologies to UConn fans. I know your team is the best team in the country, and you just won the national championship. I don't know what else to say about this team other than you're special. I mean, no Alex Caravan against St. John's, and St. John's is not ranked. St. John's is not an elite team, but there's no team in the country that when they turn it on, they look unbeatable, quite like UConn. Now, you could point to like an Alabama. When Alabama's hitting threes, Alabama looks to be the best team in the country, sure. I don't know. Alabama's – I don't want to believe in Alabama again. I believed in last year's Alabama team, and they fucked me, and I don't think this year's team's nearly as good. And I've come to the conclusion that Alabama's just a gimmick, and the offense they run is just gimmicky, and when it's going well, it looks great, and when it's not, it doesn't. And, if they win at Auburn on Wednesday – I guess maybe I got to rethink things. Auburn, by the way, is another team that I think that's a massive game. It always is, I guess, nowadays in this modern era of Auburn, Alabama. But Auburn does feel sort of like Houston, like another team that they beat the shit out of bad teams. But like when they actually are playing really, really good teams, what do they show me? So I'm still not there with Auburn yet. I think that's it. I think I talked about all the big games from the weekend that I wanted to hit on. Some shout-outs before we go. Speaking of Auburn, Janai Broom, Morgan Freeman. You saw this interaction, TJ, with Janai Broom on the slapping Morgan Freeman's hand away. I don't think he should have apologized. I think that was really fucking weird for Morgan Freeman to just grab the guy's jersey. What was that about?
Yeah, I think the natural reaction if somebody grabs on you from behind is most of the time going to be like,
just
hey,
slap him.
Stop that.
But why did he do that? Why did Morgan Freeman do that?
It might have just been like an ego check. He's like, hey, I'm Morgan Freeman. Am I allowed to do this?
I'm just going to touch him
and
do it.
I am Morgan Freeman, so.
Yeah. It was very bizarre. It was like it was a funny clip because he hits his hand away, turns around, he's like, oh, I didn't realize you were Morgan Freeman, my bad. But I'm watching it like, yeah, but why did he do it in the first place? I don't fully understand why guy's taking a ball out of bounds and you just grab his ass. That was a little bizarre. Shout out, I guess the opposite of a shout out, a call out, a panic button. Gonzaga Gonzaga might be done. I have been on this for a little while that Gonzaga is in jeopardy of missing the NCAA tournament, and they lose at home to St. Mary's. A good St. Mary's team. St. Mary's is undefeated in the conference and is always a foil to Gonzaga, or at least the number one contender to Gonzaga's WCC throne. St. Mary's wins in Spokane, 64-62. Controversial call down the stretch. I know that. Gonzaga fans were hot. I saw the students are like throwing trash on the floor. They're losing their fucking minds. Whether you have a legitimate gripe or not, the reality is Gonzaga's not making the NCAA tournament unless they win the WCC. And I think with Kentucky falling off as of late, and Kentucky, not looking as dominant, or as Kentucky there for a second looked like they could be 1 seed good. They are not going to be 1 seed good. So this game coming up where Gonzaga goes to Lexington to play Kentucky, which for a long time I had been forecasting as like the game that Gonzaga has to win to have any hope of an NCAA tournament, because they have 0 quad 1 wins. They're non-conference. Every good team that they played, they lost to. And then their good wins ended up being even worse wins. Like USC fucking sucks now. And at the time, it felt like that might be worth a little something. It's worth nothing now. UCLA, same thing, worth absolutely nothing. So you look at you look at this Gonzaga schedule, and there's just no opportunities except for this Kentucky game. But the Kentucky, even if they win in Rupp, it's certainly going to go a long way in helping their chances to make the tournament. I don't think that's enough. I think they have to win in Rupp Arena on almost like run the table the regular season or win the conference tournament. Now, they still are. It's them and St. Mary's are the two best teams in the and basically when you're forecasting it out as to what it will take for Gonzaga to make the tournament, you're basically saying beat St. Mary's in the conference tournament, which is very doable. So like you're hitting the panic button on the automatic bid. I don't know if you're fully hitting the panic button on making the NCAA tournament yet because, for being completely honest, I know Gonzaga's already lost to Santa Clara. I know that they are I don't want to take for granted that, you know, they could lose to another team in the WCC tournament before they have to play St. Mary's. But if we're being completely honest with ourselves, all I'm basically saying is they have to beat St. Mary's in the WCC tournament, which could still happen. But for that to be the reality, that Gonzaga needs to win the WCC tournament to make the NCAA tournament and keep their streak going of like 1,000 years now, it's crazy. So that was another takeaway from the weekend. One more thing before I go. One other shout out is I went to Cirque du Soleil last night in Vegas, and I have no idea what I saw, but it was like the coolest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. And I've been wanting to go to Cirque du Soleil for literally decades. I've been coming to Vegas for a very long time. We used to play AAU tournaments back here back when I was like 12 years old, and I have no idea why people were I have no idea why when I was 12 we were playing AAU tournaments in Las Vegas of all places. But we were, and maybe we weren't 12, maybe we were more like 14, but the point is we were very young and couldn't do anything. And I remember badly wanting to go see Cirque du Soleil just because it seemed like freaky deaky crazy shit that I couldn't even really comprehend. Finally did it last night, pulled the trigger. I was like, I'm going to go see this Cirque du Soleil show that I've never seen before. I went to the one at the Bellagio where they have like a big water tank. It was so cool, and I have no idea what I saw, TJ.
Hell yeah.
So that's my review, is like my mind was blown, and I thought there was like a story to it, but I'm not really sure what the story was.
There's always like some sort of overarching narrative. Like they have themed ones, they have branded ones now. I was looking into it because we talked about it earlier. There's a messy one. There's like one that's about the life and time of Lionel Messi.
Lionel Messi?
Yes.
Cirque du Soleil?
Cirque du Soleil Messi 10 is what it's called. I don't know where they do it. They do them all over the world now. My mom texted me after too. My parents' first date was at Cirque du Soleil.
Oh, really?
In 1992.
Yeah, it was awesome, man. I was blown away, but then I kind of had like a moment where I got taken out of it, and instead of like focusing on the show, I'm just like focusing on the performers and just so curious about what their lives are like and like what led to this, to you being like a trapeze person in Cirque du Soleil. And then the other part was like I'm just like a morbid son of a bitch. So like they have this tank where the stage like rises out of the water and then it like goes back down into the water to make the water deep, but then like the stage will come up so they can like do shit on the stage, and then I don't know, they just like change the depth of the pool over and over. And I'm just sitting there thinking like, what if the guy doesn't hit the right button and the guy jumping from like 60 feet in the air to dive in, they accidentally like bring the stage up. I don't know why I'm thinking these things, but I'm thinking them because like the logistics that go into putting that show on just blew my mind. How many moving parts and how many moving people. It was crazy. But it was awesome, and I had a great time. And shout out Cirque du Soleil. I would like to join. I don't know if you guys are recruiting. I don't know if you need like a long, gangly, freakish looking, skinny dude. I didn't really see a lot of those in the circus. It's a lot of very strong, extremely athletic guys. But yeah, it was one of those deals where I did go home and I was like, I got to get better at acrobats. I'm not my trapezing skills aren't where they need to be, and I need to fix that immediately.
That's doable.
So we need to get like trapeze shit in the Chicago office or something.
Just put like a tightrope over the basketball hoop that we could do tightrope walking.
We should. Do you get that way when you like go? Do you get like inspired? It might just be like ego ultimately. It might be just like I watched that, and instead of just going, wow, that's impressive, like some part of my ego's like, no, fuck that, I can do that.
I get that a little bit when I watch skiing and snowboarding.
Okay.
I've never been skiing or snowboarding, but it's something that I feel like if I did it for like an hour, I would just throw myself off the biggest jump I could find and be like, I could probably nail this. And then just injure myself and like put myself in the hospital.
I don't necessarily think I would have been better than those guys last night, but there was a part of me that was like, I need to just devote my life to this because that would be so sick to be able to just jump off of that thing and do the flip into the water and then trap you, whatever the fuck they're doing, the flippy dippy shit. I should just do that. Why don't I just do that?
You should start flipping.
Why don't I flip?
When was the last time you flipped?
So if you see me in a few years and I've joined Cirque du Soleil, this is why. It all comes back to this moment. All right, thank you to Big Cat for joining us. Thank you to everybody watching, listening. We appreciate it. We're going to do another show here from Vegas that we'll figure out, and then it's go time, man. Super Bowl's over. And it's college basketball time. But yeah, this weekend was awesome. I was really fired up. I had so many people texting me, and like college basketball had like the country's attention for a weekend. And the games weren't all great. I think it kind of felt like the team that felt the best out of the start ended up winning the game. So like there wasn't really a lot of drama with these games. But no, it's a lot. There's a lot of good basketball, and for I do think UConn and Purdue are head and shoulders better than everybody else, but they are not by any stretch of the imagination unbeatable. And it's not like this doesn't feel to me like a Gonzaga Baylor year where they're just on a collision course in a national championship or anything like that. I still think the tournament's going to be awesome, and both of those teams could lose well before the Final Four. So it'll be awesome. I'm fired up for it. We're going to do one more show from Vegas. We will see you guys then on Friday.